There's nothing better than a good underdog story, when a team, or more specifically, a fighter, manages to overcome the odds and win in the face of adversity. Most sports fans have no problem showing that athlete the incredible amount of respect their achievements have demanded, and there have been some pretty epic examples of this down the years. Today, we are discussing the biggest underdogs in UFC history. Stay with us. First up, we're talking about Michael Bisping. England's Bisping was widely regarded as a gatekeeper for the middleweight division, and when he was asked to step in for an injured Chris Weidman to face Luke Rockhold for the middleweight crown on just 17 days' notice, not many people gave him much hope at all. But Bisping is that rare breed of man who has no quit in him whatsoever, so he wholeheartedly jumped into the challenge. He had also been submitted by Rockhold 2 years before their rematch, so he had a point to prove. In the very first round, Bisping relieved Rockhold of his middleweight title, catching him with a left hook, which sent him to the canvas. As he got back to his feet, the count again knocked him down, viciously unleashing on him up against the cage to win a title that had been 12 years in the making. A superb story. Next up, it's Matt Serra. Stay with us. Matt Serra has gone on to forge a successful post-fight career as a podcaster and trainer, and boasts current UFC bantamweight king Aljamain Sterling as one of his charges. However, back in April 2007, he shocked the world after snatching George St. Pierre's title in a fight he was absolutely not supposed to win. At a time when GSP was beating everybody, the Canadian was on a 6-fight win streak. But that didn't mean anything to Serra, who completely threw the form book out the window by knocking out GSP in a fight that would become synonymous with the word underdog. A fresh-faced Serra had rocked George with a big combo before landing another big 1-2, finally putting him down and mounting him before finishing off one of the all-time greats with some vicious ground and pound. What did you make of this one? We have Holly Holm coming through now. The preacher's daughter shocked the world back in 2015 to win the world bantamweight title, dethroning one of the most dominant champions we had seen in the UFC up to that point, Ronda Rousey. Both ladies came into the fight unbeaten, but it was the manner in which Rousey was blowing through opponents that made her viewed as such a heavy favorite, and she simply got her tactics wrong as she decided to chase down Holm, a renowned boxer in her days before crossing over to MMA. As Rousey charged, Holm landed a picture-perfect straight left to knock the champion down, but she wasn't done there. Holly then landed a textbook head kick as Ronda was getting back to her feet, following her down to the canvas to finish her off. Epic. Nate Diaz is coming through next. Stay tuned. When Diaz vs. McGregor was booked in 2016, a lot of fans looked at Dana White with a hint of side-eye, wondering what he was doing. McGregor was undefeated in the UFC and would become a 2-weight world champion later that year, and Nate Diaz was largely viewed as somewhat of a journeyman, however popular he might have been. However, the step up to welterweight was a little too much for the Notorious, as he gassed relatively early in the fight, inexplicably shooting for a takedown on the renowned BJJ grappler. Diaz was busted up at this point, but managed to stuff the takedown and use it to his advantage as he maneuvered himself onto the back of McGregor, tapping him out via rear naked choke. What is the biggest upset in UFC history in your opinion? Next up, we have Chris Weidman. Arguably the biggest shock in UFC history up to that point, Weidman managed to hand Silva his first defeat in 7.5 years back in 2013, in a win that reverberated around the world. Silva was so dominant during this period that he was lighting everybody up and came into the fight riding a 17-fight win streak. Weidman was undefeated, but wasn't expected to cause someone with the skill set of Silva too many problems. In the second round of the fight, the New York native knocked Silva out, the first KO loss of his career, and Weidman became a household name across the world of combat sports. He would successfully defend the title against Silva a few months later, as Anderson received one of the most gruesome injuries of all time. What did you make of Weidman's win? Thug Rose is up next. Stay with us. Rose Namajunas came into her November 2017 title fight with Jon Jacek as a pretty big underdog, but would leave New York City with "and new" ringing in her ears. The pole was on a tear in the women's strawweight division and was undefeated in her 14 professional fights up to that point, wearing her opponents down with some excellent striking. But Rose has other ideas. In the very first round, Namajunas brought the fight to the champion, landing a left hook from hell that Yon simply didn't see coming. She fell back against the fence, with Rose following her down to the canvas and laying it on her. A quite superb performance from Thug Rose. What did you guys make of this one when it went down? Let us know below. Gabriel Gonzaga is coming through next. Gonzaga took on Mirko Crow Cop Filipovic back at UFC 70, the owner of a 5-fight win streak, each victory coming by way of knockout. And Crow Cop was the big favorite coming into the fight, thanks to having much more experience than Gonzaga, but none of that mattered. Also, on a 5-fight win streak, Gonzaga managed to knock the big Croatian out in the first round of their heavyweight title eliminator, with a head kick KO which fans still talk about to this day. The right high head kick instantly slept Mirko, crumpling him and sending him directly to the canvas to complete an unlikely win for the Brazilian. Crow Cop would get his revenge 8 years later, however, knocking Gonzaga out in the third round of their rematch. Give us your thoughts on this one below. And now, we're talking TJ Dillashaw. Stay with us. TJ Dillashaw shocked the combat sports world back in 2014 as he dethroned Brazilian standout and bantamweight champion Renan Barão. The Baron was the overwhelming favorite coming into the fight, considering the fact he had won his last 31 fights in a row. Dillashaw, on the other hand, had dropped a decision to Rafael Assunção a couple of fights before. Having waited until the last round to complete the win, it's safe to say that Dillashaw had probably won every round anyway, which is a big enough shock in itself. After dominating the fight, TJ finally put Barão down with a big left, then delivered some pretty heavy ground and pound to the former champion, making sure of a huge win in the process. What did you guys make of Dillashaw's shockingly dominant win over Barão? Let us know below. Cody Garbrandt is up next. Garbrandt took on Dominic Cruz for the bantamweight title at the end of 2016, scoring a massive decision win to take the title in the process. Cruz was expected to win the fight with relative ease, given the fact he was on a 13-fight win streak, but Garbrandt wasn't about to just roll over for the Dominator. Cody pushed the pace from the first round, scoring a unanimous decision win in the process to win the bantamweight title for the first time. Garbrandt wouldn't reign all that long though, losing his recently won title to bitter rival TJ Dillashaw the following year. Since beating Cruz almost 6 years ago, Cody Garbrandt has only won one fight, which possibly lends more validity to the claim that his shock win over Cruz was simply an anomaly. What did you guys make of this one? Give us your thoughts in the comments. And finally, it's Juliana Pena. Stay with us. Juliana Pena pulled off arguably the biggest shock in UFC history last year, 2021, as she submitted the most dominant women's champion in the history of the sport, Amanda Nunes. The pair came together at UFC 269, but Nunes was simply expected to blow through Pena as she had done to so many others, including legends of the game like Ronda Rousey, Valentina, and Cyborg. However, it didn't play out that way, as Nunes possibly underestimated her opponent and paid the heaviest price. In the second round, the fight went to the ground, and Pena managed to take the back of the champion and wedge her forearm underneath her chin. Many people claimed the choke wasn't completely locked in, and that Nunes tapped incredibly quickly, which maybe she did. What did you guys think? And which other fights have we missed off our list today? Let us know below. As usual, thanks for dropping in on us today, and remember to tune in again next time when we will be discussing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel. Bye guys!